It started, I think, a couple of weeks ago. My apartment started experiencing power outages. At first, nothing bad happened. For example, my computer would shut down while I was surfing the internet, or the microwave oven would turn off while I was cooking something in it. I called an electrician who, upon inspection, said that the wiring was perfectly fine. Not believing him, I enlisted the services of several other colleagues, but they all told me the same thing. I tried to use fewer electrical appliances, thinking I was overloading the mains. Eventually, I got used to this state of affairs. Then my attention was drawn to the fact that my co-workers were complaining about the same problem. A girl sitting in the office across from my desk told me that her iPod had shut down despite being fully charged. It was up and running again a few minutes later. It wasn't long before this began to be mentioned in passing on the news. It was said that this problem would be fixed soon. I then learned that this kind of thing was not only happening in my neighborhood. The same phenomenon was occurring in neighborhoods all over the country. And as I later found out, the situation was getting worse all over the world. As many of us began to get used to having some of these appliances stop working from time to time, appliances began to go off all at once and could stay off for hours at a time. Still, panic was growing. No one could explain what was happening, neither the media nor the electricians. Then generators began to fail. Many schools, office buildings, and even residences have generators in case of power outages. All this time, the generators worked without failure. But then, they suffered the same fate as electrical appliances. Sometimes the children had to go to school in total darkness. I remember once having to get out of the office with a flashlight before it went out, of course. When the lights stopped coming on, people started to panic. No matter what people did, many remained without lights, without access to media. People became literally isolated. Then these glitches started. People were screaming that they saw or heard someone in the dark. The girl I mentioned earlier also saw a glitch. She must have seen something not so good, because afterward she closed her eyes and pinned her eyelids to her face with a stapler. Or rather, I had only heard about it, because since then, our building has had a complete power outage. Society had degenerated. Electronic devices provided us with information, light, and entertainment. Without them, what did we see? What would happen without them? I stopped going to work. In truth, no one went anywhere. People stayed in their homes, stocking up on food and necessities, and taking care of those loved ones who were suffering from hallucinations. One afternoon, now it was only daylight, I saw a man fall in front of my house, and I rushed to his aid. But as I got closer, he started screaming, grabbing the air with his hands. "God, the light! We need the light! Bring back the light, I beg you!" I was afraid to come any closer. I took a couple more steps, but then his words made me freeze in place. "They will come if we don't get the light back. They will come for our souls. They will take everyone, children and women, men, old men." I felt my hair stand up. I don't believe in the supernatural, but this man's screams and his eyes made me think he wasn't just suffering from hallucinations. I would have questioned him further, but unfortunately he had passed away. I hated to leave him here, but I couldn't call the police, and I had never seen him myself in the neighborhood. Finally, I decided to take his body to the police station, even though I knew the cops wouldn't be there. When I got home, the sun was already setting. My hair started to stand up again. I rushed home and slammed the door behind me. An hour later, when I was almost asleep, I had nothing else to do these days, I heard it, a blood-chilling scream. Somewhere in one of the neighbors' houses, I jumped up and rushed running to that house. A few others joined me on the way. We stood there trying to figure out what had happened. but no one dared to go inside and no one called for help. Finally, one of us decided to see what was wrong. He grazed the door with his shoulder and disappeared into the darkness of the house. A couple seconds later, we heard him scream too, but this time we heard something else as we were closer to the source of the sounds. The sound of flesh being ripped off bones, blood splattering on the walls, and inhuman laughter. I only remember being home again. Stretching my memory, I remember one of them. I saw him in the window of that house. Or rather, of course, I saw only its white eyes. The creature itself black as the darkness in which it dwells. Of course it had those teeth. God, those teeth. I saw them when it smiled at me from the window, gleaming and white and sharp, some kind of liquid dripping FR. And now I'm sitting locked in my room. The only light is the light of the moon and the window where I'm sitting. And writing it all, I can hear panicking people outside. They are trying to fight them, whoever they are. But people are powerless. The screaming, the crunching of bones, the pools of blood in the streets. I've seen it all in the last couple of hours. I'm surprised I haven't completely lost my mind. I've had time to reflect. This is why we're afraid of the dark. They are the dark in the worst sense of the word. They're the reason kids sleep by nightlight. Light kills them, so they don't attack in daylight. They are afraid of the slightest light, even that which comes from a computer screen. They try not to show themselves to people, unless they want a snack, of course. But now I know why kids are so afraid of the dark. I now remember seeing one of them out of the corner of my eye once when I was 5 years old. My mum said it was just my imagination, that they weren't real. If I held on for a couple more hours, dawn would come. Maybe help will come with it, but they won't be able to attack me. I'll be safe. But that doesn't seem to be the case, for I can already hear them downstairs. They have come for me, and the barred door will not stop them. I will suffer the same fate as the people in that house. They're already scrambling at the door, and I can hear them giggling as if this is some kind of game to them. There's a knife in my hand, but what good is it? Why is the power out? Maybe it's just our hour, the hour of humanity. The darkness will cleanse the earth. One of them is already on the edge of my bed. I can see his teeth. I drop the knife. What's in it for me? You can't kill something that doesn't exist.
Hehehehe